This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Please welcome on stage the Managing Director, IDC South Asia, Mr. Jaideep Mehta. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Mehta.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Companies are really looking very hard to, on the one hand, use information technology to drive innovation, whereas on the other hand, they're also looking at different dimensions of IT, specifically data and analytics, to be able to make informed decisions and to capture more margin and make fewer mistakes. And therefore, by 2020 to 2022, what we believe is that the predominant IT infrastructure will be cloud-oriented. The predominant way to actually consume software will be software as a service. And business leaders and technology leaders will be challenged to make sense out of it all. And the technologies they'll be using there are the infrastructure of big data and the applications commonly known as analytics. This is what I call is about smart communities. We hear about smart city. We've been talking about smart city for a while now. As a group, I've been hearing this terminology for the last 10 years. What's going on in smart city? What happens in school campuses? What happens in a social area? How do you look at different aspects of businesses, and how do you look at visualize this particular thing from customer or end citizen point of view, link it back and bring it from a security and terror alert aspect into it? I think that's where we are going. Very diverse group of people, different industries out here. Now that we've established that cloud and big data is a mature technology, no longer something that we might just try for a short little while, from within your own industries or an industry that you think is really making a big difference, if you could define today what cloud and big data is doing. I'll start with you. Okay, thanks, Ajay. I think Jaideep talked about the whole theme around cloud and how infrastructure today is becoming pervasive, is a commodity that can be leveraged, is everywhere, and has the compute power to really provide analytical capabilities at a very large scale that was unprecedented in the past. So that really brings the possibility of what you can do with data in real terms and in a fairly cost-effective manner. I think that's a fundamental shift from a cloud perspective. From a data perspective, I think traditionally most businesses have been contained in terms of what data actually is for them in scope. Today that takes a very different perspective. All data is in scope. And if you don't leverage that data, you are really behind. Banking's become the poster boy for big data because you guys kind of got into it first. You seem to have the most amount of data, whether I want it or not, from me. And you've seen the maximum amount of impact as to how banks are used. Before we came on stage, you gave me a startling number, which I'd like you to tell the audience. Percentage of people that actually use a physical banking branch is what? 10%. 10%, and 90% of the other transactions are now no longer needing a physical proximity of going to a branch. Is this a great thing for you, or are there some kind of reservations that this may be moving too fast in your sector? No, I think it's an amazing thing for us, primarily for two reasons. One is, it gives you the ability for us to go to the customer rather than the customer coming to us. And for any enterprise and customer service, that's the best thing to happen. Second part, in India we had a huge struggle for 10-15 years in terms of internet banking adoption. We started most of the bank in 98, 99, but we still face a lot of challenges. What's happened in India is mobility has really taken off. The wireless adoption has really taken off from both urban and rural areas. What it has helped us do is leapfrog one whole generation of wired connectivity, directly into wireless connectivity. And today, if you see the kind of transaction volumes that are happening on mobility, they are just phenomenal. The growth is phenomenal. It is helping us serve customers better. It is also helping us do a lot of fraud analytics better using real-time big data analytics. It's also helping us do so many innovative things obviously reducing our overall cost of operations, which is extremely important. So it's an amazing thing that has happened in the banking sector. We say now that the new bank is your mobile phone. That's what we say in banking now. I'm going to come to, of course, some of the negatives of that also, but that will be round 2 as I go down. Mahindra & Mahindra would have so many different sectors that you can use and must be using big data and cloud. Can you tell us of an example of one particular industry that you've seen the maximum impact in a good way?
If a car gets into an accident at a particular place, just imagine what's happening at that point of time if the car is calling my next hospital which is there ahead and telling here is an accident happened, please wait to receive a patient. And by the way, these are the vital statistics. Then it is calling the insurance agent telling him to prepare the checkbook, which is good news. But it's also at the same time connecting what are the things which are going wrong with the car so that it goes to the remotely connected REVA, let's say for example, I just wanted to talk about. And from there they can kind of start patching up the car so that even after the accident it's able to do the next kind of task that is there. Then it is communicating with the doctor to tell him what's happening to the patient for the first time. So all of this is what is happening and what is possible with just one thing. And what it creates is a business moment. Now, is the car an insurance company? Is the car a banking company? Is the car a mechanic or just a repair desk? Is it the hospital? Or is it the civic infrastructure where the car is now telling how to reroute the traffic so that it is peacefully gone? So which of this is going to be the future?
A big accident will create a lot of big data. That's one example. The other is this perfect way, and for all panelists in the future from the audience, if you're ever on stage, is a great example. Look how he's used it. He's used it, of course, to plug his own the REVA car, so that's very well done. And he's also introduced way too many acronyms which we already have in the world of tech. There's SC, ST, PPM, PPB, and a whole lot more of acronyms. So that's the perfect panelist. Jaideep, let's find out from you. A lot of big data being created. Is there a fine line where now eventually it's each human being as we sit here, including you, this panel, everybody sitting here, who's actually going to create that big data? It's not about a business-to-business thing, because a lot of people seem to think it's for the business, by the business. This is actually, there is no such thing. Every single human being will create that data about himself. Is this really something that we are ready for? Is the technology there to slice and dice, or is this a huge accumulation of big data that one day will get analyzed?
Let me just, before I answer that question, Rajiv, I think you heard what the car of tomorrow looks like, and of course it's heading towards driverless cars. The UK is already licensing them. So I'll leave something for the audience to mull over. In 10 years, the car industry will put the auto insurance industry out of business. So when you think about competition coming from unexpected quarters, this is a classic example. Because there won't be any accidents anymore, or they'll go down to such a small number that auto insurance companies won't be able to survive. Now coming to what you were saying, the reality of the situation is that no government in the world is able to keep pace with the innovation of the tech ecosystem. Privacy is a figment of imagination. It's in the dustbin of history. And so it shall continue. You have the choice of preserving your privacy. Don't use your phone and stay off the internet. But if you do either of these two things, it's all over. Now I'll also give you, so there's one of the leading clothing brands in the US is called Under Armour, specializing in fitness clothing. Just a couple of days ago, they spent $100 million to buy a business called myfitnesspal.com, which some people in the audience might be using. I sadly don't. I should do, but there you are. And they paid $100 million not for their software, but for the data that they have about the millions of members and their exercise habits, their eating habits, and so on. And obviously the idea is to engage with this community and push the product to them. Now the only way they can push the product to them is if they quite literally get under the skin of these consumers. But this is just one example. I mean, if you look at any of the little check boxes that we unconsciously tick off, I accept the terms and conditions. we already collectively signed away our privacy. And that to me is going to be the big debate for the next 5 years. So far, CEOs of Target have only lost their jobs because credit card details got stolen. But when biometric details get stolen, I wonder if they'll end up in jail. Right? So security as a discussion and privacy and the associated regulations and laws around it is going to become a critical discussion for the next 5-10 years.
5 years back, where cloud was, big data is there today. There are a lot of theories, a lot of discussions. I will give a simple example where I live in Singapore. Singapore government gives us a secure vault, a digital vault as a public cloud. What do we store in that? We store our 13 documents which are related to us, starting from your birth certificate to your specific documents you need to kind of use. They are all stored for, and we pay like a very minuscule amount on a yearly basis which goes to your pension, a provident fund, which you don't even see. Now if I want to take a mortgage loan or a car loan, I don't have to go and submit this document again and again. I just send a secure link from a secure vault to the bank. Bank knows if it's coming from this particular email. I don't have to do any check. So the notary system is completely gone off the business for the last 5 years in Singapore. Every citizen beyond a particular age, when it comes to go for applying in bank, loan kind of activities are tracked from this, and your documents are safe. So you have that thing that I don't have to keep my documents in my files and keep it there. It's all scanned, notarized and stored with the government. And that's a beautiful example I see where a public system using public cloud and serving citizens, going beyond what we call our e-citizens.
But I will touch upon one point, especially around the security aspect, because when the enterprise itself takes the shape of an ecosystem, where does the boundary really lie? And that's a huge mindset shift when you look at cloud and big data in unison. I think Sunil or Jaideep was talking about the future. You will not have your data center or your assets. You will use cloud. In the future, you will consume from SaaS. So what do you really own? What do you really manage? I feel that's all about data. It's about where does the data reside, who owns the data, who has ownership for it, who is accountable for it, and who is supposed to secure it, who is supposed to govern it, and who says what you can do with it and what you can't do with it. That is where I think a significant amount of emphasis has to be in terms of really making it viable for a large scale.
That's actually a great point, because if we get it right, this entire future that we're painting with big data and cloud, on the one side we're talking about the amount of metrics. As a mobile phone use the internet. The second is all the other devices that we all start using, all the sensors in this world that will start talking to each other. Prediction 2018 to 2020, 50 billion devices will talk to each other with no human intervention. Now that is a staggering number of things happening without your, well, if you have your knowledge, but you do not know how much of data is being tracked. All that data about you lies where, with whom, with what level of security, and who can tap it for what becomes an incredible question to answer. One which, your mind can boggle right now, but we'll be facing this in the next few months and years. So is this important for us to be aware today?
Well, I think they've just opened up a whole war, I would say. I think in not with no confusion on my words, etc. It is a perspective and a learning that all suppliers, vendors, partners, providers, whether it is banking or a telecom industry, I think we all need to go through this. Now the clear aspect is probably social proliferation went on too fast for anyone to really realize that how important it is to regulate and keep the personal privacy, etc. of various people. Many a times you would not have even realized that somebody could have actually been very hurt because all of that private information got disclosed publicly. We as a matured, technology provider, service provider to all of the people need to have certain amount of clarity in terms of what gets out, exposed, what doesn't get exposed. And for that, if I just take the example of, say, we as telcos, yes, we do want the customer experience to be the best. We do want to make sure what customer is getting as a service is a targeted service rather than all the junk that people seem to get many a times when people don't even realize that what they're talking and just the data gets downloaded or uploaded onto about them or about the rest of the community.
when you look at the country-specific scenario, I feel that the consumers of tomorrow are going to drive the adoption of these themes. I was having an interesting conversation with a head of a retail organization from Europe recently, and like you said, why would you not want to go to a bank? I mean, the next generation, they do not want to go to a shop. They don't even want to go to a retail store. So I think that phenomenon is driving a lot of change, and I believe that India, for example, as a country, has probably the highest number of digital native users. I mean, most of us are digital immigrants. We have started to adopt this off late, but people have grown with digital technologies. We have the highest number in the world. And given that there's a technology disruption in terms of wireless and cloud and so on and so forth, where you don't need to have significant infrastructure, I feel that a lot of these use cases will be predominantly led by countries like India, which have the highest number of digital natives.
Let's get an example from you. We see various ways that this is actually used, and it can be leveraged in many ways. An example around the world that you're just absolutely waiting for it to come down to India.
I'm personally very passionate about the health industry. And there are, in Africa, for example, through very simple mechanisms, they are tracking disease outbreaks. And, all of us who've got kids, the seasons change and disease just comes. It's magical almost, right? And I personally feel that we should be looking at using, where medicines are getting prescribed, tracking that, analyzing that, understanding the geographical clusters. It's very easy technology. But it will allow us to do three things. One, it will allow us to quickly track an outbreak. Two, it will allow us to contain an outbreak. And three, if required, it will allow us to drive very rapid immunization programs and so on to protect children and adults for that matter. And God knows our country needs this. The fundamental shift, I think, for most organizations that traditionally security has been looked at securing the perimeter. You have your data center, your network, and you secure the perimeter. In this world, the perimeter is disappearing. In the Internet of Things, there is no perimeter. All data is in scope. So when the concept of perimeter disappears, security today doesn't know how to handle it. So the reality is eventually we believe that the data has to be bubble wrapped with security wherever it resides. And that is going to be a fundamental shift in the way security has to be looked at. And that's a big change in paradigm.
What I think we've learned today about big data and the cloud is it's here, it's not hype, that's for sure. It is an incredibly mature technology. It's in your face and in your life, whatever way you want it. Of course, the other learnings that I've had today is security and privacy, forget about it. It didn't exist for a while, it will not be there in the future. That's one part that we may have to forget about. But it's also going to be the driving force for almost every future tech that you actually may have, from your smart city to the Internet of Things to your own personal life to every single thing about you being sliced and diced. For a better life for you will come from cloud and big data. So that's a future I think we can all be really, really happy about, because it looks good, and hopefully cloud will not be, like you said, a semi-permanent thing that rains and goes away. I think we should be pretty permanent with it. Maybe we'll just change the name next time, right? All right, thank you so much. Do give this panel, fantastic panel, a big hand. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Well done.